to establish primarily that God has an agenda, God has a purpose, God has a plan. God also, in having an agenda, having a purpose, having a plan, has designed the execution and the establishment and the manifestation of his plan in such a way that if what is in his heart will be crystallized in the visible realm, then he needs to find men that will be willing to run his errands. So God has errands in the earth. He has matters he wants to establish. He has purposes he wants to see come to pass. But for him to see these things come to pass, for him to see his matters established in the earth realm, then there must be people within his government that are willing to abandon their own agenda and see that the will of God is established. One of the challenges of the body of Christ in the last maybe 20, 30, 40 years, especially in Nigeria and Africa, and probably the rest of the world, is the church turned it around. We began to focus on what it is we can get from God rather than what it is we can do for God. So everything around church space began to evolve around meeting the basic needs of the Christian. So the Christian wants to eat, the Christian needs a car, the Christian needs a breakthrough, the Christian needs a house. And the church designed it in such a way, whether deliberately or unintentionally, designed it in such a way that everything about Christians and Christianity began to revolve around consumerism. We just want to consume. The Christian is looking for a God that he can use to build a house, looking for a God he can use to marry, looking for a God she can use to build her business. So the Christian has not been raised to go to God at salvation. Immediately he has experienced salvation, he's not taught to go back to God and say, now that I am saved, what do you want to do with my life? What happens in church is we are taught that now that I am saved, it's now an opportunity for me to get something from God. I could not get it from God because I was an unbeliever. But now that I'm a believer, it's an opportunity to deal with my hunger, deal with my poverty, deal with my lack of shoes, deal with my this and that. So even though there are a lot of saved people around the Christian space, God still cries from the heavens, whom shall I send? So we filled our churches with a lot of Christians, but they are not sendable men. They are not men that have been trained in the ways of God, that they are willing to go for God. Because when you read Isaiah chapter 6 and you see what Isaiah penned down in his prophecy regarding what it is that he heard from the lips of God, the first matter was, whom shall I send? The second matter is, who will go for us? Because it is possible that you have come to a place where you are sendable, but you are sendable, yet you are unwilling to go. Are you here? Because there are two categories of Christians that are growing within the body of Christ now. They are the category that are not sendable at all. They think that Christianity is about getting something from God to satisfy lusts and cravings that are building within their heart. They can't be sent. Because the primary, if you've been here for the 3 teachings that we have done, the primary qualification for you to be sendable is you to come to a place where you totally surrender your will. If you have not totally surrendered your will, you cannot be sent. So God might have an errand, urgent errand, that he needs somebody in the earth to run. But when he looks within our enclave, looks within our denominations, he can't find men who he can send. So majority of the Christians are unsendable. Because the minute you send a man whose will is not crucified, he will use God's opportunity to advance his own agenda. He will use the gifts and the graces of God to satisfy his lusts. That's why right now in the Christian space, you have things like celebrity preachers. You have things like celebrity musicians, gospel musicians. In fact, they don't want to be called gospel ministers anymore. They prefer to be called gospel artists. They are artists. They want to be treated like celebrities because they have received a gift, a grace, an opportunity from God, and because their will has not been crucified, that opportunity has become a platform to satisfy their raging carnal lusts. So a lot of immature people, because one of the signs that you are still a babe, that you have refused to mature, is that your will is unsurrendered. A babe wants what he wants. He can cry. Have you seen babies crying? They can cry for something that you, who is an adult, knows that this thing can kill the child. But his appetite is raging. He's a child.